Hello and happy Thriving Thursday. Today we continue our masterclass on the purchase agreement. I'm referencing the GMAR standard purchase agreement. So let's break down number 26, property inspection / due diligence contingency. So it states, inspections required by FHA, VA lenders or municipalities are not made for, nor should they be relied upon by buyer, broker. Brokers recommend that buyer conduct independent private inspections of property at buyer's expense. Due diligence may include, but is not limited to, any inspections or research deemed necessary by buyer, including structural integrity, condition of mechanical systems, environmental status, health or safety conditions, surveys, or infestation. To ensure intended use of premises, it is recommended that buyer research square footage, building and use restrictions, easements, ordinances, regulations, school district, and or property tax status. If buyer does not notify seller in writing within blank calendar days from date of final acceptance of agreement that buyer is dissatisfied with results of due diligence, agreement shall be binding without regard to inspections. If buyer notifies seller in writing and within the specified time that in buyer's sole judgment buyer is dissatisfied with results of due diligence, buyer shall do one or combination of the following with a contingency period stated above. So, present to seller an amendment for mutual agreement that cites a list of repairs and or conditions to be remedied. B, present to seller an amendment for mutual agreement with a credit to be applied against the purchase price and or a price reduction in full satisfaction of inspection contingency. C, present to seller a notice of dissatisfaction with due diligence, which shall render agreement null and void, in which case seller agrees to authorize broker to return all earnest monies to the buyer. D, in the event the seller and buyer are unable to reach an agreement to buyer's proposals made under A or B, buyer shall either elect to proceed with the transaction by waiving the inspection contingency in writing or declare the agreement void by election of C within 3 calendar days of receipt of seller's written responses to A or B above. Okay, now that we've read through it all, let's kind of break it down because there is a lot to this one. So it's important to note that the property / due diligence contingency is not a guarantee that the property will be free of defects. It simply allows the buyer the opportunity to have the property inspected and to decide whether or not to proceed with the purchase based on the results of that inspection. So important to note, it is the inspection and due diligence period. So the buyer needs to research everything and anything that is important to them about purchasing that house. So maybe they want to build a garage or put up a fence later, but now is the time for them to research if they're able to do that. Not us, not the agent. So we always want to act in the scope of our license. I would never want to tell a client, oh yeah, you can build a fence there. I would say you will need to contact the city to see if you are allowed to build a fence there. That way, if the city changes its mind or there's miscommunication, it isn't on you. It's the buyer's due diligence period. They need to research those things themselves. So, of course, this is the time to really inspect the home as well. This can range from major mechanicals, plumbing, HVAC, a sewer scope, and the cost of these inspections are the buyer's responsibility. So there are private home inspectors, and they have a variety of service and prices. We'll talk about that a different day. So in the blank, you put the days of this contingency. So usually 7 days is the norm and kind of acceptable, but to be a stronger offer, you might want to shorten it to 5 or 3. I would never suggest waiving it. If there was a holiday or special property or circumstance, it could be 10 plus days. And day 1 is the day after final acceptance. So we're going to count those days to make sure you know when it ends. So You always want to make sure you know when the due diligence period is over. So if they find something, they can present an amendment asking for some repairs. B, they could ask for money in the form of a concession or off the purchase price. So I usually recommend a concession because that would be less money that the buyer would have to bring to closing, essentially putting the money in their pocket so they could do the repair. Where, rough numbers, $1,000 decrease in the purchase price for a $200,000 house would lower their monthly payment by about $6.50 a month. So C, they could completely back out of the deal and get their EMD back. Of course, you have to present an addendum saying that they are terminating the contract, and this needs to be emailed to the listing agent during the inspection period, or the buyer probably won't get their deposit back. So again, you really need to make sure you know when that period ends. D, and if agreement can't be made, as these are requests to the seller, and the seller could say no, the buyer can either then elect to walk away, or they can decide to proceed without their request being satisfied. So that would be something that they would have to decide. So as a real estate agent, it is your job to ensure that your clients understand this contingency and how it works. It is also important to communicate clearly with the seller's agent to make sure that any negotiations or requests for repairs are handled in a timely and fair manner. And of course, you want to verify that those have been done either at your walkthrough or before that, depending on the scope of the repair. So again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me, and continue to practice kindness out there, especially in this holiday season. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and holiday and a great, thriving Thursday.